Hi, I am Kira and 29. They told me I was adopted during a screaming match. Like, a full-blown meltdown in the kitchen. My mom looked me dead in the face, hands shaking, and just said it. You're not even ours. Pause. That's how I found out. Not with love, not with care, but like it was a weapon. And that was the moment everything changed. Before I continue my story, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments. Hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you don't miss more real stories like this. Stick around. This one's gonna hurt, but it's real. I grew up thinking I was just difficult. Like maybe I was too emotional, too sensitive. Maybe I expected too much. But now, I realize they just never truly saw me as theirs. I always felt like the odd one out. They were blonde and blue-eyed, all country club and casseroles. And I was this moody little brunette who asked too many questions. My dad coached my brother's baseball team. But when I asked him to come to my art show, he said, "Do we really need to spend the whole night watching finger paintings?" I was 12. I cried the whole way home. They never hit me. They never screamed. But the silence, the disappointment, the way they looked past me like I was background noise, that sticks with you. And for a long time, I thought that was love. Conditional, cold, careful. Until the night everything exploded. I was visiting home after college, Thanksgiving. Things were already tense. My brother had brought his new fiancée. My parents were fawning over her like she cured cancer. Meanwhile, I had just gotten promoted to editor at a major magazine in LA. And no one asked me a single question about it. Then someone made a joke. Something about me never really fitting in. And I snapped. I said, "Maybe if you actually treated me like your daughter." And that's when it happened. My mom slammed her wine glass down and yelled, "You're not even ours, Kira." Okay. Are you happy now? My stomach dropped. I thought I misheard her. I laughed. Like a dumb, awkward laugh. "What are you talking about?" And she just stared. No apology. No explanation. Just cold silence. My dad, or the man I thought was my dad, got up and left the room. My brother looked like he'd just seen a ghost. And that's how I found out. 23 years old. The family secret spilled like red wine across the floor. I left that night. I didn't pack. I didn't cry. I just drove back to LA in the middle of the night with one question looping in my brain. Who am I really? I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. A week later, I called my aunt, my mom's younger sister. She'd always been kinder to me than the rest of them. When she picked up, I didn't even say hello. I just said, "Was I adopted?" And she went silent. Then whispered, "I always thought they'd tell you one day." She gave me a name, told me it was sealed in court records, but she remembered bits. That my mom couldn't have kids. That they adopted me from a closed agency when they were living in New York. But the man on my birth certificate? Not the father. The real one? All I know is, he was some wealthy client from the firm your mom worked at. She was a paralegal. It was messy. I wrote that down. Every word. The next morning, I started digging. What I found would change everything. The morning after my aunt dropped that bomb on me, I didn't even brush my hair. I made coffee, sat cross-legged on the couch with my laptop, and started searching. New York closed adoption 1994, private agency, high-profile clients, paralegal, law firm. I cross-referenced names, court records, firm directories from the 90s. I even checked obituaries, alumni lists, divorce filings. Hours blurred together. My eyes burned. My stomach growled. But then, bingo. I found a scan of a legal newsletter from 1993. It mentioned a woman named Melanie Danvers, a junior paralegal at a firm in Midtown. The article said she had taken extended leave after some kind of internal issue. That was my mom's maiden name. I kept going. Deeper. And then it happened. I found a settlement. Sealed, yes. But the docket number matched a high-value paternity case filed the same year I was born. And the respondent? Matthew K. Aldrich, founder of Aldrich Capital, a hedge fund mogul, billionaire. Every finance article said the same thing: brilliant, ruthless, untouchable. I stared at the screen for a long time. Was this real? Was this man, this cold-suited empire builder, my father? I wanted to scream, or laugh, or puke. I did none of that. Instead, I searched him on YouTube, found a video of him giving a keynote. He was calm, intense, funny in that intimidating way. And when he said the word strategy, something in his mouth, it moved just like mine. I didn't sleep that night. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling, whispering his name to myself like a question. Matthew Aldridge. Matthew Aldridge. I thought about messaging him, or showing up at his office, or finding his address and, I don't know, dropping a DNA test in his mailbox. But the truth? I was scared. Not of him, but of what it would mean if he knew, and didn't care. So instead, I reached out to a reporter I used to freelance with at my magazine. She owed me a favor. I said, I need help finding someone who works at Aldridge Capital. Off the record. She didn't even ask why. By that weekend, I had a name. Jordan Kim, executive assistant to Aldridge himself. I sent her an email. Simple, polite, careful. Hi Jordan. I'm writing regarding a personal matter involving Mr. Aldridge. I'm not requesting a meeting, just clarity. Please let me know if there's a safe way to speak privately. I expected silence. Or maybe a cease and desist. Instead, the next morning, she replied, Mr. Aldridge does not take personal requests. However, if you believe you have a claim that concerns his private affairs, you may submit documentation. Kindly clarify the nature of your inquiry. I stared at her words. Claim. Documentation. Like I was a legal issue. But that was the moment I stopped being scared and started getting strategic. I contacted a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, a family law specialist with experience in legacy disputes. I didn't want money. I didn't want headlines. I just wanted the truth. We'll run a discrete paternity test, he said. We'll do this the right way. No surprises. But inside, I knew. I already knew. The results came back 3 weeks later. 99.9987% probability. Matthew Aldridge was my biological father. I told no one. Not my friends. Not my boss. Not even my aunt. I walked around with this secret buzzing in my chest like a live wire. Until I made the decision. I wasn't going to hide. Not anymore. I booked a ticket to New York. And on a rainy Tuesday morning, I stood in front of Aldridge Capital, watching umbrellas flood past me on Fifth Avenue, heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. His building was cold glass and steel. His name in silver letters on the marble wall. I walked in, told the front desk I had a delivery for Mr. Aldridge. They pointed me to the 43rd floor. I stepped into the elevator, my legs shaking the whole way up. The office was like a movie. Glass walls, hushed voices, sharp suits. I asked for Jordan. When she appeared, she looked me up and down like she didn't have time for me. You're Kira, she asked. I nodded. What is this regarding again? I handed her an envelope. She glanced at the label, then back at me. You mailed this. I also wanted to deliver it. Personally. She sighed. Look, I get a dozen people a week who say they're connected to Mr. Aldridge. I don't know what you're hoping. Read the name. Pause. She looked down. Her face changed. She didn't say anything. Walked away. And then, 5 minutes later, he'll see you now. His office was massive. Bookshelves. Artwork. A view of the whole city. And there he was. Matthew Aldridge. Standing by the window, hands in his pockets. He turned when he heard me. And, for a second, he just stared. Like he knew. Like he felt it. I opened my mouth to speak, but he held up his hand, walked toward me slowly, his expression unreadable. Then he said, You look like someone I once cared about. My eyes filled with tears. Melanie Danvers, I said. He exhaled. She never told me, he whispered. We talked for 2 hours. About her. About the firm. About how he was 29, just starting out. How it had been messy, fast, emotional. How she left without a word. I looked for her, he said. I didn't even know she was pregnant. And now, here I was. His daughter. He didn't try to hug me. Or cry. He wasn't that kind of man. But before I left, he said, I don't know what comes next, but you're not alone anymore. And that meant more than anything my adoptive family ever said to me. The next few months were a blur. We stayed in touch. Emails. Phone calls. Cautious lunches. I met his wife. His legitimate kids. They were nice, polite at least. His daughter, Sophia, was my age. Weird, right? We talked once. She said he always seemed haunted. Now I get it. I wish I could say everything was perfect, that he became my dad overnight. But life's not a movie. Sometimes healing comes in pieces. Slow, jagged, unfinished. But here's what did happen. When I got invited to speak at a national publishing conference, guess who sat in the front row? Matthew Aldridge. He clapped, smiled, waited after to tell me, you crushed it. And that moment? That moment was everything I never got. From the people who raised me, And then came the revenge. But not the loud, screaming kind. No, the kind that's silent, successful, undeniable. I didn't plan revenge. Not at first. I didn't sit around plotting ways to hurt the people who raised me. Because for a while, I just wanted peace. But the thing is, when you finally start healing, when you find out where you really came from, you start looking at your past differently. Like, from the outside. And what I saw was a girl who had been gaslit her whole life, told to be smaller, quieter, grateful. They had me believing I was broken. But I wasn't broken. I was just surrounded by people who never wanted to know the real me. And the moment I accepted that, something in me snapped back into place. I didn't speak to my adoptive parents for 6 months. Not after that Thanksgiving. Not after the adoption bombshell. They didn't call either. Until one day, I got a wedding invitation. My brother's wedding. Handwritten on the envelope, in my mom's cursive. "We hope you'll come." It would mean a lot. The audacity. They dropped a truth bomb on me like it was nothing. Then acted like everything could just go back to normal? I laughed out loud. But then I stopped laughing. Because suddenly, I wanted to go. Not out of love. Not out of loyalty. But because I wasn't afraid anymore. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their fake affection. I didn't even need an apology. I just needed to show up. As me. No shame. No hiding. And maybe, just maybe, let them see what they lost. So I planned it carefully. I chose a black silk jumpsuit, sleek, modern. Nothing they'd ever pick off a rack. I got my hair done that morning. Gold hoops. Matte lipstick. Confident eyes. I looked in the mirror and thought, this is the version of me they never got to know. Their loss. And then I grabbed the envelope. The birth certificate. The DNA test. Proof of everything. Just in case. The wedding was held at some estate in Sonoma. Fancy, of course. Vineyard vibes. White roses everywhere. I arrived 10 minutes late. Not to be rude. Just to make sure I didn't get seated in the back. When I stepped out of the car, I could feel eyes on me. Some people smiled. Some whispered. My aunt blinked like she was seeing a ghost. And then I saw my mom. Her face went stiff. Like she didn't know whether to hug me or hide. She walked up and gave me one of those fake cheek kisses. "Kira, you look lovely." I just smiled. "Thanks, so do you." Neither of us meant it. During the reception, I played the game. I smiled. I clinked glasses. I danced with my cousins. I let them talk about their real estate hustle and clean girl morning routines and whatever else was trendy that week. And then, about an hour in, my brother's wife's family came over to meet me. They'd heard I was in publishing. Someone asked, "Wait, are you the Kira Danvers who just launched that new imprint?" I nodded. They lit up. "We've been following that on LinkedIn. Your founder letter was amazing. The way you wrote about giving underrepresented voices a platform? Brilliant." My mother was standing right behind them, mouth slightly open. They kept going. "And your viral essay, I grew up invisible, that was you, right?" I smiled. That was me. The silence behind me was delicious. A little later, my dad walked up to me. He looked older, more tired, like life had wrung something out of him. "So, you've been busy," he said. I just nodded. Took a sip of champagne. He cleared his throat. "Listen, Kira. About what your mother said at Thanksgiving." I cut him off. "You mean when she told me I wasn't your daughter?" Like it was a fun fact. He flinched. "We should have told you sooner," he said. We didn't know how." I looked him in the eye. "Yeah, well, you didn't try very hard, did you?" He didn't answer. And then I handed him the envelope. He looked at it, confused. "What's this?" "The truth," I said. "Figured you'd want it in writing." And then I walked away. The next morning, I got a text from him. Just one sentence. "Who is Matthew Aldridge?" I didn't respond. What happened next wasn't revenge. It was just life catching up. A few months after the wedding, the essay I wrote went viral again, this time on a global scale. A publisher in London picked it up for an anthology. My name was suddenly everywhere. Interviews, podcasts, speaking invites. And guess who reached out? Matthew. He said, "I read your piece, and I want to invest in your imprint." I thought he was kidding, but he was dead serious. "You're building something that matters," he said. "I want to help." And, just like that, the man who once didn't know I existed became the first one to bet on me. We launched a new division together 6 months later. A nonprofit branch focused on giving scholarships to young women in foster care and adoption systems. We named it after my birth mom, the Mel Foundation. The press loved it. But more importantly, so did the girls we helped. One day, I got a letter in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. Inside, a photo of me at 6 years old, in my first grade Halloween costume. A little handwritten note on the back. You always were magic. I just didn't know how to love it. Mom. I cried. I cried hard. But I didn't call her. Some things are too little, too late. The final chapter of my revenge came the day I was asked to speak at my alma mater. A huge auditorium. Lights. Cameras. Live stream. And in the second row, my adoptive parents. I saw them the moment I stepped on stage, but I didn't flinch. I told my story, start to finish. The adoption, the secrets, the silence, the healing. I ended with this. The family you're born into doesn't always see you, but the family you choose, the one that truly sees your light, will never ask you to dim it. The audience stood. People cried. And my parents? They stayed seated, stone-faced. And honestly, that made it even better. Because for once, they were the ones left invisible. I used to think closure meant confrontation. Like if I could just sit them down, say all the things I rehearsed in my head for years, I'd finally be free. But the truth? Freedom doesn't come from them. It comes when you stop needing their response. And that's where I was now. After the campus speech, everything moved fast. Book offers, more press, calls from people who used to ignore me. I hired an assistant, started turning down interviews, got a business manager, a lawyer, a therapist who didn't flinch when I said, my mom weaponized my adoption during Thanksgiving dinner. And through it all, one thought kept creeping back. Do I owe them anything? A letter? A meeting? A chance? I didn't know. Until I got another message. This time, from my brother. Kira. Dad's sick. It's bad. Mom's a mess. I thought you should know. My heart didn't drop. I didn't feel panic. I just stared at the message. For a long time. Then I texted back. What do you want from me? And his reply? Just, come say goodbye. Even if you hate him. I didn't go. Not right away. I sat with it for a week. Thought about all the moments he minimized me. The way he introduced me to people as our more creative child, code for unsuccessful. How he once told me I had a face for radio. How he never came to a single school thing. How he looked past me every time I begged with my eyes just to be seen. But I also remembered that he held my bike when I was learning to ride. That he put a band-aid on my knee when I fell off the swing set. Memories are messy like that. So finally, I went. The hospital smelled like bleach and bad coffee. He looked smaller, grayer, like time had finally caught up with him and demanded payment. My mom was there too. She stood up when she saw me, tried to hug me. I let her, not because I forgave her, but because I didn't want to carry more resentment in my body than I already did. She whispered, "Thank you for coming." I said nothing. Just looked at the man who raised me. Half-truths, cold shoulders and all. His eyes opened slowly. He squinted at me. And then, quietly, he said, I didn't know how to love you right. My throat tightened. He continued. I saw everything you were, and it scared me. You were too big for our world. Too much. Pause. But you weren't wrong, Kira. You were never wrong. And that broke me. Not because I needed it, but because I finally knew. He'd seen me. Even if it took him a lifetime. I nodded. Whispered, I know. And then I left. 2 weeks later, he died. And I didn't go to the funeral. I went to the ocean. Sat on the sand with a journal and wrote. Today, the man who taught me silence finally shut up. I know how harsh that sounds. But when you grow up feeling like you're too much, you spend years apologizing for simply existing. And then one day, you stop apologizing. You take up space. And when you do, you'll lose some people. But the people you gain? They're your real family. A month after he passed, I got a call from his lawyer. They wanted to meet. Apparently, there was something in the will. I showed up in jeans and a blazer. No makeup. No performance. Just me. The room was cold. Dark mahogany walls. A framed photo of my dad smiling with my brother on a fishing trip. I sat across from the lawyer, an older man with kind eyes. He cleared his throat. There's a letter. Addressed to you. And a small trust, if you want it. I raised my eyebrows. How small? 10,000. Just a gesture. 10,000. Just a gesture. I chuckled. He never did think I was worth more than a gesture. The lawyer handed me the envelope. I opened it. His handwriting was shakier than I remembered. Kira, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even know if I deserve your presence at this reading. But I want you to know that when you left the room at the wedding, I realized I'd been measuring everything wrong. I hope the world gives you everything I couldn't. I I hope you never let anyone dim you again. Take this small amount and use it for something beautiful, something loud, something that matters. Dad. I folded the letter, tucked it into my coat pocket. Not because I forgave him, but because I no longer needed to hate him. I used the $10,000 to fund a writing retreat for adopted teens. No filters, no rules, just space to scream on paper. Every time I watched a 17-year-old girl read her trauma out loud and not break, I thought of him, and how different I might have been if someone had given me that space when I was her age. One night, after the retreat, I sat in my kitchen with Matthew, my biological father. He was drinking scotch. I was barefoot, sipping tea. And he asked me something no one had ever asked. What do you want, Kira? Like, really want? And I didn't say success, or love, or peace. I said, I want to be allowed to change. Because so much of my life had been spent proving who I was. I'd never felt safe evolving. He nodded. Then change. Whoever doesn't adjust doesn't deserve to stay. Sometimes, revenge isn't destruction. It's evolution. It's saying, I'm not who I was when you broke me. And I'm not who you think I am now. It's no longer performing grief, or faking gratitude, or trying to win back people who were never equipped to love you. Sometimes, revenge is becoming the version of you they never imagined possible, the version that doesn't need them. A year later, I released my book, a memoir, called The Girl Who Grew Up Invisible. And on the dedication page, I didn't thank my parents, not the ones who raised me, not even Matthew. I wrote, for every girl who was too loud, too weird, too much, and made herself smaller just to survive, grow back louder. I didn't go to the funeral. I thought I would. I even packed black dress, heels, waterproof mascara. I had it all in a bag by the door. But when the morning came, I just couldn't do it. I sat on the edge of my bed, dress in my lap, staring out the window at nothing. And I whispered to myself, what are you going for? To say goodbye? To stand near people who never really stood by me? To pretend? Nah. I'd done enough pretending to last a lifetime. Instead, I went to the ocean. Just me. No phone. No noise. I sat on a cliff and watched waves crash into rock and thought, this is grief. Loud. Messy. Endless. And still, it keeps going. I didn't cry right away. Grief isn't always a sob fest. Sometimes it's just heaviness. Like someone sitting on your chest and won't move. And for me, it wasn't even just about him. It was about everything. The years I spent shrinking. The nights I begged the universe to make me likable. The mornings I stood in a mirror, trying to shapeshift into the daughter they'd finally see. I mourned all the versions of me they crushed. A few days later, my mom called. Voicemail. Her voice sounded tired, thinner. Not broken, but close. Kira, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I get that. But I wanted you to know I read your book. All of it. And I'm sorry. For everything. I didn't know how to raise someone like you. I wish I'd tried harder. I hope someday you'll let me try again. I listened to it 3 times. But I didn't call back. Because here's the thing. I don't want an apology. I want peace. And sometimes peace means walking away. Even if they finally say what you waited a lifetime to hear. I moved into a new place. Not just an apartment, a space. A sanctuary. Sunlight everywhere. Big windows. Books stacked on the floor. Plants I kept alive for longer than a month. Miracle TBH. I painted one wall orange. Because I could. Because I didn't have to explain it to anyone. And when I sat in that room, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Stillness. No buzzing anxiety. No fake smile. Just me. And she was enough. Matthew visited once. My biological father. We sat on my rug eating takeout. He asked about my writing. My foundation. He didn't try to parent me. Didn't give advice. He just listened. At one point he said, you know, if things had been different, I would have taken you to school, taught you chess, made pancakes on Sundays. I smiled. We can still do pancakes. He grinned. And for a second I saw it. What could have been. But instead of feeling bitter, I just felt grateful that now existed at all. My friend Taylor, the one who told me not to show the test results that day, she came to visit too. We sat on my balcony with wine and nostalgia, and she said, you know what your story is? I blinked. A mess? She laughed. No, it's a comeback story disguised as a breakdown. And that hit. Because yeah, I broke down. But not to collapse. To rebuild. A few weeks later, I got an email from a school counselor in Ohio. They were using my book in their trauma support group for adopted teens. They asked if I'd send a video message. I sent more than that. I flew out, talked to a room of kids with shaking voices and guarded eyes. I told them everything. And when one girl, 15, pink hair, quiet rage, asked me, "How do you stop feeling like garbage?" I looked her in the eye and said, "You stop waiting for the people who threw you away to be the ones who clean you up." So no, I didn't go to the funeral. I didn't hug my mom or return her call. I didn't write some letter or post something dramatic online. Because the most powerful thing I did? I chose myself. And once I did that, everything else, the grief, the revenge, the need to explain, quieted. I didn't believe in love for a long time. Not romantic love, not family love, not even friendship, really. Because when you grow up having to earn affection, when love feels like a test you keep failing, you start to think maybe the problem is you. So you learn to perform. You laugh at the right moments. You soften your edges. You become palatable. But none of it is love. It's survival. The first time I felt safe in someone's arms, it wasn't a date. It wasn't fireworks or slow dancing in the rain. It was when I had a panic attack at 2 a.m. on my bathroom floor. Ugly crying. Can't breathe crying. And my friend Julian, who'd only known me a few months, showed up with tea, a hoodie, and zero judgment. He sat next to me on the tile and said, "You don't have to talk. Just breathe. I'm not going anywhere." And he didn't. Not that night. Not after. We met at a writing retreat. He was soft-spoken, sharp-witted, carried a sketch pad everywhere. I liked him instantly. Not in the butterflies way, but in the safe harbor way. He asked me questions like, "What made you laugh when you were 9? Do you talk to the moon or the stars? What's something you wish someone had said to you, but never did?" And I told him everything. Not all at once, but slowly, honestly, without makeup. He didn't try to fix me. When I told him about the adoption reveal, the test results, the car, the dinner table, the envelope, he didn't say, "Wow, that's crazy," or "You're so strong." He just looked at me and said, "You didn't deserve any of that, and you didn't imagine it. It was real, and it was wrong." And I swear, those words felt like a balm I didn't even know I needed. We didn't call it dating, not for a while. We just kept showing up in each other's lives. He read early drafts of my essays. I listened to his voice memos of song lyrics and poetry lines. He brought me lemon cookies on hard days. I gave him my favorite mug when he told me he missed home. One night, sitting on my couch, feet tangled under a blanket, he said, "I've been in love before, but never like this. Never, without trying." And I looked at him and said, "Me neither." We didn't do grand gestures. No candlelit dinners. No proposal montages. We did Tuesday nights and forehead kisses, groceries, and I saw this and thought of you. We did real. And that was the love that stuck. One morning, I was brushing my teeth, hair a disaster, wearing mismatched socks, and he walked by and said, "You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen." And I rolled my eyes. But he pulled me close, toothpaste foam and all, and whispered, "I love you when you're messy. Not despite it, because of it." And that's when I knew. This was love. The kind you don't perform. The kind you don't earn. The kind that just is. It took me years to understand this. Love doesn't fix you. It meets you where you are, sits with you in the dark, hands you the flashlight, but lets you decide when to turn it on. My biggest fear used to be that I was unlovable, too intense, too opinionated, too complicated. But the truth? I was just too real for people who only knew how to love conditionally. And when I stopped trying to shrink, I made room for people who knew how to hold me fully. People like Julian. People like the girls in my writing program. The ones who read their trauma out loud and still found room to laugh afterward. People like me. I don't believe in fairy tale love. I don't believe in you complete me nonsense. I believe in messy, human, honest love. The kind that says, you don't have to be perfect, just present. So no, I didn't ride off into the sunset. I didn't marry a billionaire. I didn't get a picture-perfect family reunion. What I got was better. I got love that made space. Love that didn't flinch when I told the hard stories. Love that never asked me to dilute myself. I got love that said, you don't owe me anything. Just be. And that was the most radical kind of healing I could have ever imagined. I thought the past was done with me. Wrapped, burned, buried. But trauma has this weird boomerang effect. Just when you think you've healed, something random, a scent, a voicemail, a photo, pulls the thread. And suddenly you're bleeding again. It started with a box. My mom, my adoptive mom, mailed it to me. No note. No explanation. Just a plain cardboard box with my name. My real name. Not the nickname she used my whole life. Kira Danvers. Like she knew. Like she finally saw it. Inside was a bunch of old stuff. School drawings. Baby photos. A cracked snow globe. My first library card. A birthday card from second grade that just said, "You were okay this year." Yeah, that's the kind of love I got. But under all that was a yellow envelope, sealed. No return address. No handwriting. Just my name in the middle. Not Kira. But baby girl. My heart stopped. I sat there for a full hour before opening it. The envelope smelled old, like time, ink, and dust. My hands were shaking. Inside was a letter. Dated June 14th, 1994. I was 11 days old. The handwriting was shaky. Cursive. Rushed. The first line? "If you're reading this, then somehow, they let you know the truth." My breath caught in my chest. I read the whole thing sitting on the floor. Every word. Twice. It was from her. My birth mother. Melanie. The woman I only knew through whispered family gossip and legal paperwork. And this was her voice. Unfiltered. Raw. Scared. "I wanted to keep you. I swear I did. But I wasn't safe. And I couldn't give you the life I wanted you to have. I hope they raise you kind. I hope they never make you feel small." Well, they failed on both. The letter wasn't long, but it said more than I'd ever heard from the people who raised me. "Your father doesn't know about you. I never told him. He was powerful and I was disposable. But you? You're not disposable. You are wanted. Even if no one ever says it out loud." I sobbed, full body sobbed, like something ancient in me cracked wide open. I called my aunt, the only one in the family who ever told me the truth. I asked, why didn't she keep me? My aunt sighed. "Because her name didn't carry weight, Kira. Yours did. They thought raising you under a wealthy name would protect you. But they didn't know protection without love is just a prettier cage." I wrote that down, word for word. I showed the letter to Matthew, my biological father. His hands trembled as he read it. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then finally, he whispered, "She kept it from me. All this time." He folded the paper, handed it back. "I should have found her." And I said, "You didn't know to look." But inside, I wondered, what if he had? Would any of this have turned out different? I couldn't stop thinking about her. The girl who wrote that letter. Not a woman. Not a mother. A girl. A girl scared out of her mind. Working at a law firm. Pregnant. Alone. Writing a note to her daughter she thought she'd never see again. I wanted to find her. So I started searching. Not in a dramatic movie way. Just, carefully, quietly. Birth records. Court dockets. Private message boards. My friend Taylor, the one who knows everything, helped me dig. And after 2 weeks of searching, we found a name. Melanie Danvers Murphy. Social worker. Connecticut. Mid-40s. No social media. No marriage records. But definitely her. I stared at her photo for a long time. She had my nose. I'd never seen someone with my nose before. Not once. And now, here she was. Real. Alive. But I didn't reach out. Not yet. Because part of me still carried that childlike fear. What if she doesn't want me now? What if the version of me in her head is sweeter, quieter, less broken? What if I ruin the fantasy? I showed the photo to Julian, the only person I trusted with this piece of me. He said, "She wrote you a letter before she could give you anything else." Maybe that's her way of saying, you still matter to her. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing, and cried into his hoodie for the second time in our friendship. A few nights later, I sat at my desk, and I wrote a letter. Not to send, just to write. "Dear Melanie, I got your message. It took 29 years to reach me, but it landed exactly when I needed it most. And I want you to know, I'm okay. I'm more than okay. I'm loved. I'm heard. I'm me. I don't blame you. I don't pity you. I don't need you to explain. I just hope we meet one day. Not because I need answers, but because I think we both deserve something gentler than goodbye." I folded the letter, put it in my notebook. Maybe I'll send it one day. Maybe not. But writing it? That healed something. I didn't reach out to Melanie right away. I kept thinking I would. I'd type out a message in my notes app, rewrite it, delete it, start over. Sometimes I'd just stare at her photo for 10 minutes. I had her name, her job, her face, but I didn't have her voice. And something about that scared me. Julian asked me one night while we were making pasta, "What would you want from her if you did meet?" I didn't know how to answer. Not a hug, not an apology, Definitely not some cheesy movie reunion where we both cry in slow motion. I think I just wanted proof. Proof that she thought about me, that she wondered who I became, that when she handed me away, I didn't disappear from her heart. The day I finally called her, I don't even know what triggered it. I was sitting at a red light, sun hitting the windshield just right, and my heart started racing like someone was yelling go. I pulled over, opened my phone, called the number Taylor had found. Voicemail. Figures. Her voice was soft, low, professional. You've reached Melanie Danvers Murphy with Family Resources of Connecticut. Please leave a message and I'll return your call. My throat closed, but I made myself speak. Hi, this is Kira Danvers. I believe we might be connected. I found a letter from you from a long time ago. If you're open to it, I'd like to talk. No pressure. Just, yeah, thank you. I hung up and immediately started shaking. I sat there for 5 minutes, hands gripping the wheel like the car might float away. I felt sick, and also lighter, like just saying it out loud made the ghost less powerful. She called back the next day. I missed it. She left a message. Kira, hi, I got your voicemail. And wow, yes, of course. I've thought about this moment every year since 1994. I'd love to meet you. But only if you want that too. I met her a week later. Neutral spot. A small cafe halfway between us. I wore jeans and a sweatshirt. No makeup. I didn't want to impress her. I just wanted to show up. I got there early. Sat in the corner booth. My hands would not stop sweating. And then, she walked in. She looked nervous. She scanned the room, eyes darting. And then they landed on me. We locked eyes. She covered her mouth, like she might cry. I stood up. We just stood there, staring at each other for what felt like a year. Then, finally, she whispered, "Hi, baby girl." And I broke. We didn't hug. Not at first. We just sat down. Two women with matching noses, matching eyebrows, and a lifetime of space between us. She ordered tea. I got coffee. And for a while, we just talked about small things. How she liked gardening now. How I lived in LA. How she had 2 cats named Peanut and Jelly. And then, out of nowhere, she asked, "Did they treat you well?" And I froze. How do you answer that? Do you lie? Do you protect her feelings? Do you tell her how they used your existence like a threat? How they let you think you were broken? How they said you're not even ours like it was a final insult? I didn't want to relive it, but I didn't want to pretend either. So I said the truth. They tried, but they didn't know how to love me. She nodded, slowly, painfully. I'm so sorry. And then, we cried, quietly. At a tiny table, in a place that smelled like cinnamon and coffee beans. And finally, she reached across the table, held my hand, and I didn't flinch. She told me she wrote that letter the night before the adoption, hid it in a box of my baby things, hoping one day someone would pass it on. She said, I didn't know if they ever would, but writing it made me feel like I was still with you somehow. I told her it saved me. She broke down. I didn't get all the answers that day. And honestly, I didn't want all of them. I didn't need to know why she left the firm, or why she didn't try to find me. The fact that she called me baby girl and meant it, that was enough. When we hugged goodbye, it wasn't dramatic, just warm, real. A hug between 2 people who had earned it. Later that night, Julian asked how it went. I curled into his side and said, I think I met a version of myself I forgot existed. Reconnecting with her didn't fix everything. I didn't become whole overnight. But something inside me softened, like a wound that finally scabbed over. And when I looked in the mirror the next morning, I saw someone who wasn't looking for permission anymore. I saw someone with her own name, her own story, her own damn light. And I whispered, you're allowed to be here. It's weird what healing looks like. It's not this big, dramatic crescendo where you scream into the wind or burn all your journals. Sometimes it's just blocking someone's number without crying about it, deleting a birthday reminder, walking past a family photo and not feeling anything. Sometimes healing is so quiet, you don't even realize it's happening, until someone tries to hurt you again. And it doesn't land. After I met Melanie, my birth mom, something shifted. I didn't feel this aching need to be understood anymore. Not by my old family. Not by anyone, really. I used to think closure meant confrontation. That I had to sit them down, say everything, get answers. But the truth? I already had all the answers I needed. They just weren't the ones I'd been begging for. The final straw wasn't dramatic. No screaming. No long email thread. Just A text from my mom, the one who raised me. After months of silence, she wrote, "I hope you're done punishing us now. Dad's gone. I've apologized. We did the best we could. Please stop making us the villains of your story." I stared at it, laughed, then cried. Not because I was hurt, but because she still didn't get it. She still thought this was about punishment, as if setting boundaries equals revenge, as if not coming home equals an attack. But I wasn't mad anymore. I was just done. I didn't respond, and that was the power move. Because the old me, she would have typed a paragraph, explained her feelings, tried to be mature. But healed me? She just turned off read receipts. Some people will only ever see your boundaries as cruelty, because to them, love means access. And when you take that access away, they call you bitter. But here's the truth. I'm not bitter. I'm better. And I'm busy. Busy building something that matters. Busy loving people who don't need me to earn it. Busy being the version of myself I used to dream about when I cried alone in high school. I don't need them to clap for me anymore. I don't need the Matthews family Christmas card, or a late-stage apology, or an invitation to a reunion I never felt welcome at. What I need? Room to breathe. And I've got that now. There's this moment that lives in my head. It happened a few months ago at a bookstore event. I was speaking on a panel about memoirs. And during the Q&A, this woman stood up, late 50s. Tired eyes, but strong posture. She said, "How do you let go of the fantasy that one day, the people who hurt you will say sorry?" And I said, "You don't let go of it all at once. You just stop putting your life on pause waiting for it." She cried. I cried. The whole row behind her cried, because we all knew. We were taught that closure comes with mutual understanding. But real closure? It comes when you stop needing mutual anything. I keep a list now. A literal list. In my notes app, titled, Proof of Life. It's not a to-do list. It's a look how far you've come list. It says things like, told my story without shaking, laughed without guilt, said no and didn't explain it, wore what I wanted to the panel, looked in the mirror and liked what I saw, let someone love me fully. That list? It's longer than I ever thought it'd be. One night, Julian asked me, "Do you think they'll ever reach out the right way?" And I said, "Maybe. But it won't matter." He nodded. "Because you've already built something better?" I smiled. "No, because I'm not waiting for it anymore." I went to therapy the next day and told my therapist, "I think I'm finally in a place where the past doesn't own me." She leaned forward. "How do you know?" And I said, "Because I'm not writing to be understood anymore. I'm writing to be free." And that felt like truth. I still have hard days. I still flinch when someone says, "You're being dramatic." I still feel weird around families who all look alike, all laugh the same. I still check for exits at holiday dinners. But those are scars, not wounds. And scars mean you survived. Sometimes healing is loud, but sometimes it's silent. You just wake up one day and realize you didn't think about them at all yesterday. You made dinner without hearing their voice in your head. You told someone no and didn't spiral after. And that quiet? It's not emptiness. It's freedom. Sometimes I forget what it felt like to be invisible. To walk into a room full of people who shared my last name and still feel like a stranger. To be told quietly, subtly, repeatedly that love was something I had to earn, that I had to shrink to be worthy of space. But now I remember that girl with compassion, not pity, not shame, not bitterness, just love, because she fought for me. She's the reason I'm here. She's the reason I wrote that book, started that foundation, opened my heart to people who didn't want to change me, just hold me. She's the reason I don't apologize for being too emotional, too honest, too real. She survived the silence, the shade, the side eyes, the stories twisted to make her the problem. And she still got up, again and again. People ask me all the time, if you could go back, would you change anything? And my honest answer? No. Because if I had the kind of family that held me right, I wouldn't have had to become the woman who learned to hold herself. And while, yes, I deserved softness, what I gained was something just as valuable, self-trust. And no one can take that from me. I don't chase belonging anymore. I don't try to fit inside systems built to erase me. I don't keep relationships that feel like emotional landmines. I let go of people who only reach out when they want control. I release the need to explain myself. And in that release, I found everything. Peace, purpose, partnership, joy. Real, unshakable joy. Like dancing in my kitchen alone joy. Like laughing with my niece until we can't breathe joy. Like waking up and liking myself joy. I still have scars. You'll see them if you look close enough. In the way I double-check my tone. In the way I overthink simple text messages. In how my body sometimes tenses when someone raises their voice, even if it's just excitement. But I'm learning to be gentle with those scars. To talk to them like old friends. I know you were trying to protect me, but we're safe now. A few months ago, I spoke at a youth conference. Hundreds of teens. A packed room. Every kind of kid you can imagine: foster youth, adopted youth, LGBTQ+ kids, neurodivergent kids, first-gen kids. The ones society keeps trying to fix. And before I got on stage, one of the girls, maybe 14, maybe 15, came up to me and said, "Thank you for being loud. It makes me feel like I'm allowed to be too." And that was it. That was the whole point. I didn't tell this story for revenge. I told it so someone else, maybe you, could feel less alone. So you'd know that even if you were thrown away, messed up, told you were too much, you're still here. And being here is proof that you're worth the space you take up. I don't know what happens next. Maybe I write another book. Maybe I start a school. Maybe I just live a quiet life in the woods with a dog and weird wind chimes. But what I do know is that I'm done begging people to love me properly. I'm done performing. I'm done shrinking. I'm done waiting for the past to rewrite itself. I've got today, and that's more than enough. If you're listening to this or watching this and something in you is aching, if your hands are shaking a little, if your heart is beating faster, I see you. I know you, because I was you. And I'm here to tell you, you can survive it. You can outgrow it. You can build a life so rooted in truth and choice and peace that you won't even recognize the person who used to cry themselves to sleep hoping for a text back. Your story isn't over, and you don't need their permission to rewrite the next chapter. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Thank you for being part of this journey with me. And remember that sometimes the family we choose is the one that truly supports us through our darkest moments.